I wipe the grease from my hands with an old rag that's seen better days, just like the Chevy I've been working on since lunch. The smell of motor oil clings to my skin like a memory that won't wash off. 30 years fixing other people's problems, and now the daylight's fading through the high windows of the garage, casting long shadows across the concrete floor. Something feels off today, and it ain't just the timing belt on Mrs. Kowalski's sedan. The radio crackles with the Tigers game, bottom of the 8th. I don't need to look up to know they're losing again. Detroit's got a way of making you comfortable with disappointment. My garage ain't fancy, but it's mine. Paid off the loan 5 years ago. Tools hang in neat rows on pegboards, each one exactly where it should be. Can't say the same for much else in my life these days. The calendar on the wall still shows last month. Linda used to change it for me, used to do a lot of things. "Closing up, boss?" Miguel asks, wiping his own hands on his blue coveralls. "Kid's a good mechanic. Better than I was at 25. "Yeah, you head on out, I'll lock up." He nods, grabs his jacket, and disappears through the side door. The metal clangs shut behind him, leaving me alone with the dying sunlight and the persistent tick of an old wall clock. I shuffle over to the register, bones aching from crawling under cars all day. The drawer slides open with a familiar ring. Bills sorted by denomination, loose change in the tray. Been doing this routine for decades, but tonight something catches in my throat. The hundreds section is light. Should be 3 of them from the Jackson transmission job. There's only 1. I count again, run my thumb over each bill like I'm reading Braille. 200 missing, could be an honest mistake, could be I deposited it and forgot. Could be, but I know I didn't. 3 times this month the numbers haven't added up. Small stuff at first, 50 here, 70 there. Easy to write off as my own error. But now this. The register drawer slams shut harder than I intended. The sound echoes through the empty garage like an accusation. My office is barely bigger than a closet. Desk cluttered with invoices, coffee mug rings, and a photo of Linda and me at the lake house. 10 years ago, maybe 12. Her smile looks different now when I see it, tighter around the edges, like she's holding something back. I sink into my chair, the springs groaning under my weight. Linda's been coming home late. 3, sometimes 4 nights a week. "Working overtime," she says. The department store where she sells perfume and makeup apparently needs her until 11 now. Funny how that started around the same time she got that new phone she never lets out of her sight. The stack of mail sits unopened on my desk. Bills mostly. I tear into them one by one. Electric, water, credit card. Then the bank statement. My eyes scan the page, catching on withdrawals I don't recognize. 200 at an ATM on Warren Avenue. That's nowhere near her work. 300 at some place called Price Motors. Never heard of it. Another 400 marked cash withdrawal from a branch in Royal Oak. I lean back, the chair protesting. The statement trembles slightly in my hand. Not from anger, not yet, but from something colder. Something that starts in my gut and spreads outward like antifreeze on concrete. "Jesus, Linda," I mutter to the empty room. Last weekend, she said she was having lunch with her sister in Ferndale. Came back with shopping bags, but nothing to show me. Week before that, her car was in the shop. I offered to fix it. It's what I do, for Christ's sake. But she said her cousin recommended some specialist. Now I'm wondering if she even has a cousin. The Tigers lose on the radio. The announcer sounds resigned, like he expected nothing better. I know the feeling. I flip through my phone to our text messages. Short, functional exchanges about groceries and bills. Nothing about the missing money. Nothing about where she really goes on Thursday nights when she claims she's at her book club. I've driven by the library. Her car wasn't there. My thumb hovers over her name. I could call her right now, demand answers, but something stops me. Some stubborn pride, or maybe fear of what I'll hear in her voice when she lies to my face again. Outside, the streetlights flicker on, orange light spilling across the parking lot. Linda's late again tonight. Book club. Sure. I toss the phone onto the desk and turn back to the bank statement. The balance at the bottom mocks me. 20 years of hard work, saving for a retirement that Linda always said she wanted to spend traveling. Now I'm watching it drain away, one unexplained withdrawal at a time. The garage feels colder now, emptier. 30 years I've spent fixing broken things. Engines, transmissions, radiators. Put the right parts together, apply the right pressure, and anything can run smooth again. But people, marriages, they don't come with manuals. No diagnostic tool can tell you where the leak is, why things aren't firing right anymore. I fold the statement and slip it into my pocket. Evidence. That's what it is now. Not just numbers on a page, but proof that something's cracked in the foundation of my life. The clock reads 7:30. Linda won't be home until after 10, if her pattern holds. Plenty of time to figure out what I'm going to do about this. Plenty of time to sit alone with the knowledge that my wife is stealing from me, lying to me, and probably worse. My hands are steady as I turn off the lights, lock the doors, walk to my truck in the gathering dark, but inside, something's shaking loose, something's threatening to break apart. I sit in the driver's seat, key in the ignition, but don't start the engine. Instead, I pull out my phone and find a different contact. Riley Hunt, former cop, current private investigator, guy who found my cousin's missing boat last year and didn't ask too many questions about the insurance claim. The phone feels heavy in my hand, like I'm holding something more than plastic and metal. A decision. A point of no return. I stare at the name on the screen, then back at the folded bank statement on the passenger seat. Some truths you can't fix yourself. Some problems you can't solve with a wrench and elbow grease. Tomorrow, I decide. Tomorrow I'll make the call. Tonight, I'll go home and watch my wife walk through the door with another lie ready on her lips. I'll watch her face for signs, study her movements like I'd study an engine making a sound it shouldn't. I start the truck. The engine turns over on the first try. At least something in my life is still reliable. The neon Budweiser sign buzzes like an angry insect, casting a sickly red glow over the scarred oak bar. O'Malley's isn't much to look at. Wood paneling from the 70s, cracked vinyl stools, air thick with decades of cigarette smoke the band never quite erased, but it's quiet on a Tuesday night. Perfect for conversations you don't want overheard. I spot Riley Hunt in the corner booth, exactly where he said he'd be, nursing something amber in a rocks glass, watching the door like a man who's spent his life expecting trouble to walk through it. My stomach knots as I weave between tables. 3 days since I found the bank statement. 3 more nights of watching Linda check her phone under the table, of hearing her whispered conversations in the bathroom, of lying beside her in bed, feeling miles apart. Riley stands when he sees me, extending a hand. His grip is firm, dry. A man who's shaken many hands but trusted few of them. "Joe McCarthy," he says, not a question. "Appreciate you coming." He's taller than I expected. Mid-50s, lean, with gray at his temples and lines around his eyes that deepen when he squints. His jacket has seen better days, too many pockets, all of them bulging with who knows what. He looks like what he is, a man who makes his living on other people's secrets. "Drink?" he asks, gesturing to his glass. I nod. "Whiskey? Neat." He signals the bartender, a heavy-set woman with faded tattoos, who brings my drink without a word. I take a long swallow, feeling the burn chase away the chill that's been sitting in my chest for days. "So," Riley says once she's gone, "your message said it's about your wife." The word hangs between us. Wife. Should be simple. Isn't. Yeah. I stare at my drink. Linda. Riley doesn't rush me. Just sits there, waiting, watching with eyes that seem to catalog every twitch and hesitation. The distant jukebox plays something slow and sad about highways and leaving. Been married 26 years, I finally say. Met at a friend's barbecue. She worked at Hudson's back then, in cosmetics. Still does, at whatever they call the place now. Macy's, I guess. Riley nods, his expression neutral. Professional. Noticed money missing. From the garage, from our accounts. The words come easier now, like engine parts clicking into place. She's been coming home late. New clothes. New phone she guards like Fort Knox. Classic stuff, I guess. Classic doesn't make it hurt less, Riley says quietly. Something in his tone makes me look up. There's knowledge there. Not just professional, but personal. You been through it? I ask. He gives a half smile that doesn't reach his eyes. Arizona, 8 years ago. My wife was a real estate agent. Worked with a lot of wealthy clients. He turns his glass slowly. Started coming home with stories about this developer. How smart he was. How he was changing Phoenix with his vision. The way he says vision drips with old venom. You knew? I ask. Suspected, but knowing and proving are different animals. Riley's eyes go distant. I was a detective then. Homicide. Spent my days piecing together other people's tragedies. Came home too tired to solve my own. Outside, a car horn blares. Someone laughs too loudly at the bar. She started working weekends, taking calls at odd hours, the usual. Riley continues. Found receipts for a hotel in Scottsdale, room service for 2. He takes a sip of his drink. Confronted her. She denied everything. Called me paranoid. Said my job was making me see crimes where there weren't any. I recognized the pattern. Linda's defensive anger when I asked about the ATM withdrawal on Warren Avenue. How quickly she turned it around made me feel crazy for asking. What happened? I ask. Followed her one night after she said she was showing a property. Took photos. Riley's face hardens. But that wasn't the worst of it. Turned out she'd been feeding her boyfriend information about my cases. Guy had connections to people I was investigating. Department corruption case I was building. Suddenly witnesses were changing stories, evidence disappearing. Jesus, I mutter. Had to resign. Personal reasons is what the record says. His fingers drum once on the table. Moved here to start over. Different kind of detective work now. The jukebox switches to something with more bass. The kind of music that makes you feel old just hearing it. Linda's been taking cash, I say, finding my voice again. Small amounts at first, now bigger. Found charges for some place called Price Motors. Never heard of it. Riley pulls out a small notebook from one of his many pockets, jots something down. Anything else unusual? New friends? Changes in routine? I think about it. She's got this book club on Thursdays, except her car's never at the library when I drive by, and her sister, she's supposedly having lunch with her every other weekend, but when I mentioned something about it to her nephew at the gas station, he looked confused, said his mom was in Florida all month. Riley writes this down too, his handwriting small and precise. Phone records? Credit card statements? She's got her own card now, didn't used to. I drain my whiskey, signal for another, and the phone, it's got one of those passcodes. She changes it every few days, I think. How about her car? GPS, anything like that? I shake my head. 2015 Malibu. Nothing fancy. Riley considers this. Social media? Email accounts you know of? She's got Facebook. Nothing special there, just family stuff, pictures of our nieces. I pause. At least on the account I know about. The second whiskey arrives, I don't touch it yet. So what happens now? I ask. You follow her? Take pictures? The thought makes my throat tight. What if... I can't finish. What if I find something? Riley supplies. That's usually the case, Joe. People don't hire me when everything's fine. And if there's another man? Riley meets my eyes directly. Then you decide what to do with that information. Some want evidence for divorce, some want leverage, some just need to know the truth, whatever it costs them. I think about the garage, the house, the life we've built. And what do you charge to blow all that up? $200 a day plus expenses, photos and reports included. He says it matter-of-factly. 3 days minimum to start. More if we need to dig deeper. It's not cheap, but less than what's already disappeared from our accounts. When can you start? Tomorrow, I'll need her schedule, photo, description of her car, usual haunts. Riley pulls out a business card, slides it across the table. And I'll need your word that whatever I find, you don't do anything stupid with it. I pick up the card. Simple white stock, black text. Riley Hunt, private investigations, a phone number, no office address. Define stupid, I say. A ghost of a smile touches his lips. The kind of stupid that lands you in jail or the hospital. I nod slowly. I just want the truth. The truth's expensive, Riley says, finishing his drink. And I don't mean my daily rate. I mean what it costs you here. He taps his chest once. Some secrets cost more than they're worth, Joe. But I'm guessing you already know that, or you wouldn't be here. I pocket his card, finally reach for that second whiskey. So we start tomorrow? Riley nods. I'll call you in the morning. Get the details. He stands, drops a 20 on the table. Try to sleep tonight. Might be the last good one you get for a while. He heads for the door, that slight limp visible now as he navigates between tables. At the threshold he pauses, looks back. For what it's worth, I hope I'm wrong about your wife. Doesn't happen often in my line, but sometimes it does. Then he's gone, the door swinging closed behind him. I sit alone with my whiskey and the weight of what I've just set in motion. $600 to either destroy my world or confirm it's already been destroyed without my knowing. The whiskey burn's going down. The Tigers game plays silently on the TV above the bar. Another loss. I should go home. Linda will be wondering where I am. Or maybe she won't. Maybe she'll be relieved I'm not there asking questions she doesn't want to answer. Either way, tomorrow the truth starts coming out, one way or another. I finish my drink and stand, leaving an extra tip for the bartender. Outside, the night air hits me cold and clear. This isn't the end, I tell myself. Just the beginning of whatever comes next. The sun beats down on my windshield like an interrogation lamp, turning my parked Impala into a sweatbox. I've got the windows cracked just enough for air, but not enough to be noticed. 3 hours I've been sitting here, camera ready on the passenger seat, notepad balanced on my knee, watching Price Motors through a pair of binoculars that have seen better days. The car lot shimmers in the midday heat, rows of overpriced used vehicles with painted-on promises of reliability. Been in this business long enough to recognize a scam operation when I see one. I jot down the time in my notebook. 1:47 p.m. Detail matters in surveillance. Little things build the case. After McCarthy hired me last night, I ran a quick background on Price Motors. Small operation, opened 5 years ago. Owner Carl Price has 2 misdemeanors for selling vehicles with tampered odometers, charges reduced both times. Man's got connections or luck? Probably both. The lot sits on the corner of Warren and Livernois, far enough from Joe McCarthy's neighborhood that Linda wouldn't bump into familiar faces. Smart. A banner flaps in the breeze. No credit check. We finance everyone. The universal mating call of the desperate and the predatory. Carl Price stands near the office door, phone pressed to his ear, gesturing with his free hand. Even from here, I can tell his suit costs more than most of the cars he's selling. Hair slicked back, gold watch catching sunlight. He's all flash and smile, the kind of man who measures his worth by what he can take from others. I shift, back aching from sitting too long. This part of the job never makes it into the crime novels, the waiting, the cramped muscles, the stale coffee in a thermos. But patience pays. 20 minutes ago, I watched Carl send his only other employee to lunch. Now the lot's empty except for him, setting the stage. My phone buzzes. Text from Joe. Linda just left work, said emergency with her sister. Her sister who's supposed to be in Florida. Another lie on the pile. I text back. Got it, in position. 15 minutes later, a blue Chevy Malibu pulls into the lot. Linda McCarthy steps out, looking over her shoulder before walking toward the office. She's dressed for work, department store makeup counterclothes, not sister emergency clothes. Hair done, purse clutched close. The way she moves reminds me of someone crossing a minefield. Deliberate steps, constant vigilance. I raise my camera, snap a few shots, document everything. Rule 1. She doesn't go inside. Instead, Carl meets her between two sedans, out of view from the street. Smart again. I adjust position, lens trained on them. Their body language tells the story. She's tense, arms crossed. He's all confidence, standing too close. That car salesman's smile working overtime. Through the viewfinder, I watch Linda shake her head. Carl's smile falters. He grabs her elbow, not violent, but possessive. The kind of touch that says, "You're not walking away from this." I snap more photos. Evidence of a relationship beyond casual business. My window's down, just enough to catch fragments of their conversation when the wind shifts. I can't keep stalling, Linda. Husband's not stupid. Already got the paperwork. Their voices rise. An argument in progress. I keep the camera clicking, capturing the story frame by frame. Linda steps back, hand raised like she's warding him off. Carl runs a hand through his perfect hair, composure slipping. "We had a deal." His voice carries this time, sharp enough to cut through the traffic noise. Linda glances around, nervous. My lens captures the fear in her eyes, the calculation. This isn't a lover's quarrel. This is business gone wrong. Carl disappears into the office, leaving Linda standing alone between the cars. She checks her phone, types something quickly. Telling someone she'll be late? Creating an alibi? Hard to tell from here. Carl returns with a manila folder. Even from this distance, I can see the real estate company logo on it. Red house outline, blue lettering. He thrusts it at her, talking rapidly, finger-jabbing at whatever's inside. Linda takes it, reluctant, like it might bite. I zoom in tight on the folder as she opens it. Glimpse of what looks like property documents. Deed transfers, maybe? Carl points at signature lines, his body language impatient. Pieces start clicking together in my head. Joe mentioned missing money, withdrawals. Now, property documents. They're not just having an affair, they're planning something bigger, something that involves Joe's assets. I take more photos as Linda nods, finally accepting whatever Carl's selling her. The folder disappears into her purse. Carl's hand lingers on her arm, slides down to her wrist. Not romantic, possessive, controlling. Linda doesn't pull away, but her body stiffens. Trapped. Carl leans in, says something in her ear. Her face goes still. That blank mask people wear when they've made a deal with the devil and are just realizing the terms. She walks back to her car, shoulders tight, steps quick. Doesn't look back at Carl, who watches her go with the satisfied look of a man who's closing a profitable sale. I snap a final series as she slides into the Malibu, folder partially visible as she transfers it from purse to glove compartment. The car starts, pulls out too fast, almost clips a minivan on Warren. Carl stands in the lot another minute, makes a call. Smiling now? Whatever just happened, he thinks he's winning. I lower the camera, feeling the familiar weight in my gut. Seen this script play out dozens of times, different actors but same ending. Joe McCarthy's about to lose more than just his wife. Much more. I start my car, pull out to follow Linda at a safe distance. Need to see where she goes next, who else might be involved. The folder is key. Property documents mean real estate, transfers, possibly fraud. If they're forging signatures, selling assets without consent, that moves this from divorce case to criminal conspiracy. Tracking someone through midday traffic takes focus. Can't get too close, can't lose them. I stay 3 cars back, camera on the passenger seat, ready for the next chapter in Linda McCarthy's betrayal. One thing's clear. Joe was right to worry, but he had no idea how right. My kitchen looks the same as it did yesterday. Same chipped Formica countertop, same humming refrigerator with the Tiger's schedule magnet, same copper-bottom pots hanging above the stove that Linda polished every spring. But nothing is the same. I sit at the table, knuckles white around a mug of coffee gone cold, waiting for Riley to arrive, with proof that my life is coming apart at the seams. The wall clock ticks toward 7, each sound like a small hammer driving nails into whatever's left of my marriage. The doorbell rings. I flinch like it's a gunshot. Riley stands on the porch, manila envelope tucked under his arm, eyes scanning the street behind him out of habit. Even at rest, the man looks vigilant. "She's at her sister's," I say, letting him in. "Or that's what she told me." Riley nods, follows me to the kitchen without comment. His limp seems more pronounced today. Long hours in a car will do that. I know about aches that come with the job. Different job? Same pains? "Coffee?" I offer. "Already running on too much." He settles at the table, sets down the envelope. "But thanks." I sit across from him, staring at that envelope like it might rear up and bite me. "How bad?" Riley meets my eyes. "No pity there, just facts." "I appreciate that. Worse than an affair," he says. "They're trying to sell your house." The words hang in the air between us. I expected to hear about motel rooms, whispered phone calls, maybe a joint bank account. Not this. That's impossible. She'd need my signature. My name's on the deed. Riley opens the envelope, lays out photographs. Linda and Carl in the car lot. Linda accepting a folder. Close-ups of documents visible in her hands. They've got a workaround for that. He pulls out more papers, photocopies of what looks like a listing agreement, transfer documents. Price has a friend at a small real estate outfit, bottom feeder type place. They listed your house yesterday. I stare at the papers, confused. But I never signed anything. Riley taps one document. "According to this, you did." My signature stares back at me, a perfect forgery on a property transfer authorization. I run my finger over it, half expecting the ink to smear. It doesn't. Jesus Christ. The room spins slightly. I grip the edge of the table. They forged my signature? That's criminal. It is. Riley's voice stays level. "Property fraud, and I found this online an hour ago." He slides his phone across the table. On the screen is a real estate listing for my house. My house. 3-bedroom bungalow with detached garage, newly renovated kitchen, a lie. Priced $30,000 below market value for a quick sale. "They're dumping it," Riley says. "Price probably has a cash buyer lined up already. Someone who won't ask questions about why it's so cheap." The floor seems to tilt under me. This house. My father's house before mine. Suddenly I'm 23 again, summer of '89, standing in this same kitchen with Dad. Walls down to the studs, floor just plywood sheets. Dad pointing up at exposed beams, explaining how we'd run the new electrical. His voice patient, calloused hands, sketching shapes in the air. "Built solid," he kept saying. "This house'll outlast both of us, Joey." We spent that whole summer rebuilding what termites had damaged, updating what time had worn down. Every weekend, every evening after my shift at the garage, Dad teaching me to miter corners, to hang drywall, to run copper pipe. His arthritis was bad that year, but he never complained, just wrapped his hands each morning and kept going. "This'll be yours someday," he told me, tapping the new kitchen counter into place. "A man needs roots, needs something solid under his feet." When Linda and I got married, Dad signed the house over to me. His wedding gift. He moved to the little apartment above his brother's place in Wyandotte, said the stairs were good for his knees, lied about that like he lied about the pain. Stubborn old man. He died 2 years later. Heart attack while shoveling snow. This house, the one he rebuilt with me, became the only place I still heard his voice. Riley's voice pulls me back. "Joe, you hearing me?" I blink, focus on his face. "Yeah, sorry." I said, "The listing agent's name is fake. Number goes to a burner phone, but the online portal connects to a real agency, small place in Royal Oak. They might not even know their system's been compromised." I stand, pacing the kitchen. 30 years of memories in these walls. The Christmas Linda hung stockings on the new mantel we installed. The mark on the door frame where my nephew's height was penciled in every birthday. The window Dad insisted on replacing himself because store-bought frames are garbage, Joey. "The money she's been taking," I say, thinking out loud. "That's for this Carl guy? Some kind of payment?" Riley nods. "Looks that way, my guess. He's financing whatever they're planning next. New identities, maybe. Probably convinced her they'd split the profits from the house sale. Can they actually sell it with a forged signature? Not legally, but if they find a buyer who doesn't look too close, move the money fast. By the time you caught on, they'd be gone." Riley straightens the photos on the table. "Most likely scenario. Price has a straw buyer lined up. Someone who'll flip the property immediately, muddy the paper trail. The anger hits me then. Not hot and fast like I expected, but cold and hard, settling in my chest like an engine block. Linda isn't just leaving me, she's erasing me. 30 years together, and she'd steal my home, my history, my father's legacy. What happens now? My voice sounds distant to my own ears. Riley gathers the documents, methodical. "We've got options. Could go to the police right now. Forgery, attempted fraud. But they might scatter. Price definitely has an escape plan. And Linda?" His eyes meet mine, careful. "Your wife's in deep, maybe over her head. But she's made her choices." I nod, feeling something harden inside me. "She has. There's another approach," Riley says, watching my reaction. "Let them think they're succeeding. Monitor the situation, gather more evidence, find out who else is involved. The full scope." "You mean set a trap?" "Something like that." Riley's face remains neutral, professional. "They'll trip themselves up soon. People like Price always do, get greedy, get sloppy." I look around the kitchen, seeing my father's handiwork in every corner. The cabinets we built together, the window that frames the backyard maple he planted when I was born. This house isn't just walls and a roof. It's my history, my legacy. "I want my house," I say finally, voice steady. "And I want them to pay for trying to take it." Riley nods, a ghost of approval in his eyes. "Then we'll make that happen. First step, secure your accounts, change passwords, move what money you can. Next, we document everything. Build our case. And Linda? Act normal, like you suspect nothing. Riley's voice softens just slightly. Can you do that? I think about tonight, when she'll come home with lies ready, when she'll sleep beside me, planning to steal everything I've built. I can do it, I say, and I know I can. For my father's house, for what's mine. Riley packs up the evidence, slides it back into the envelope. They'll trip themselves up soon, he repeats. People like this always do. I believe him. But what I don't say, what sits cold and certain in my chest, is that I'll be there when they fall. Not just watching, but pushing. The law office of Frau Keller sits wedged between a check-cashing place and a vape shop in a strip mall that's seen better decades. No gilded lettering on the door, just a laminated sign with crooked corners. My research last night turned up 3 complaints to the Bar Association, all dismissed. The kind of lawyer who skirts just inside the line of disbarment. Perfect for what Price and Linda need. Someone desperate enough to notarize forged documents without asking questions. I straighten my tie, adjust the Rolex borrowed from an old client, and step inside with the confident stride of a man with money to burn and ethics to match. The waiting room smells like synthetic lemon and old coffee, a desk with a dusty philodendron but no receptionist, just a small bell with a handwritten "Ring for Service" card. I tap it once, the sound sharp in the empty space. Footsteps approach from the back, and a woman emerges through a beaded curtain, late 40s, sharp-featured, in a charcoal suit that's quality but 10 years out of date. Her hair is pulled back so severely it gives her an instant facelift. Gold-rimmed glasses hang from a chain around her neck. She doesn't offer her hand. Can I help you? German accent, slight but present. Frau Keller, indeed. Richard Morse, I lie smoothly. Looking for some discreet assistance with a property acquisition. Her eyes flick to the Rolex, then back to my face, assessing my worth, my threat level. I don't handle standard real estate transactions. I suggest— This isn't standard, I interrupt. Carl Price recommended you, said you handle special situations. The name drops like a stone into still water. Ripples cross her face. Recognition, wariness, calculation. I see. She gestures to her office. Please, come in. The inner sanctum isn't much better than the waiting room. Law degrees on the wall. One from a school I know lost accreditation 5 years ago. Books on shelves, dusty enough to suggest they're props rather than references. A computer old enough to have seen the Obama administration. I sit across from her desk, crossing one leg over the other, projecting casual wealth and mild criminality. The kind of client she needs. Mr. Price mentioned a property, I begin, watching her closely. McCarthy Residence. I understand it's coming to market under unusual circumstances. Her fingers laced together on the desk. I'm not familiar with that particular property. Lie. Her left eye twitched. Amateur tell. That's disappointing. I lean back. I'm prepared to make a generous cash offer. No questions asked, no conventional financing. The sort of arrangement that benefits everyone involved. She studies me. I can see her calculating risk versus reward. Perhaps you could provide the address? I handle many properties. Bungalow on Mansfield Street. I believe you processed some paperwork recently. I keep my voice casual, but my eyes locked on hers. Documentation that might not withstand intense scrutiny. Her shoulders tighten. Mr. Morse, I'm not sure what Carl told you, but my practice operates within legal parameters. Of course, I smile. Just as I'm sure the McCarthy signatures on those transfer documents were obtained legitimately. A flash of panic crosses her face, quickly suppressed. She reaches for her glasses, puts them on like armor. I think there's been a misunderstanding. If you're interested in a property, I suggest contacting a realtor. I lean forward. Let's not waste time. I know about the listing. I know about the forged documents. I know Price has a buyer lined up, me, supposedly. What I need to know is how clean the title transfer will be. Her lips press into a thin line. I don't know what you're implying. I'm not implying anything. I'm stating facts. I pull out my phone, show her the listing I found online. This house, currently owned by Joseph McCarthy, being sold without his knowledge through falsified documents that you notarized. Sweat beads at her hairline. If you're insinuating impropriety, I'm insinuating nothing. I'm telling you I want in on the deal, but I need assurances. When does it close? What's the final price? And how watertight is my position if the actual owner discovers the sale? She stands abruptly. I think you should leave. I remain seated. That would be a mistake. Price mentioned you were reliable, that you understood how these arrangements work. I tap the Rolex. I'm prepared to be generous with everyone involved. Her eyes dart to the door, back to me. I don't know who you really are, but this conversation is over. That's unfortunate, I say, standing slowly. Especially since the police might be interested in a stack of fraudulent property transfers. I wonder how many other McCarthy deals you've facilitated. Fear flashes across her face. There are no other McCarthys. This is a one-time arrangement. There it is. Admission. Is it? Seems elaborate for a single property. Mr. Morse, she says, voice lowered, I advise you to walk away from this particular opportunity. There are complications. I raise an eyebrow. What kind of complications? She hesitates, then makes a decision. The husband. He's becoming suspicious. The wife is nervous. The closing needs to happen quickly. She glances at her watch. Tomorrow morning, in fact, before he can interfere. My pulse quickens. Tomorrow. Much sooner than we'd anticipated. I see. And after the closing? What happens to the proceeds? She attempts recovery, realizing she's said too much. I've already shared more than I should with someone I don't know. If you're truly interested in the property, speak with Carl directly. I intend to, just wanted to ensure the legal end was secure. I move toward the door, then pause. One last thing, the closing location. Where and when, exactly? She gives me a hard stare. That information is confidential, and I'm beginning to think you're not who you claim to be. Smart woman, finally. Too late. Fair enough. I'll confirm with Carl. I reach for the door handle. I appreciate your time, Frau Keller. Mr. Morse, she calls as I open the door. A word of advice. This transaction has powerful interests behind it. Interests that don't appreciate interference. For your own safety, I suggest you verify your role with Mr. Price before taking any further steps. A warning. And an inadvertent confirmation that there's more at stake than just Joe's house. I always do my due diligence, I reply and step out. In the car, I dial Joe's number, heart pounding. He answers on the first ring. They're moving fast, I tell him without preamble. Closing's tomorrow morning. Jesus! His voice tight with alarm. Where? Lawyer wouldn't say, but I've got a plan. We need to move now, not later. I start the engine, pulling out of the strip mall. Meet me at that diner on Michigan Avenue in 30 minutes. Bring your checkbook and whatever cash you can get your hands on. What are we doing? Setting a trap. But we need to work fast. I merge into traffic, mind racing through options. The lawyer let something slip. There are powerful interests involved. This might be bigger than just your wife and her car dealer boyfriend. What do you mean? Not sure yet, but they're rushing this closing for a reason. I check my mirrors, habit from too many years of being followed. One thing's clear. We can't just report this to the police and hope they sort it out. We need to be there when the deal goes down. I'll be ready, Joe says, and I hear the steel in his voice. The same cold determination I felt last night in his kitchen. Good. 30 minutes. I hang up, already mapping our counterstrike. Tomorrow morning, Linda McCarthy and Carl Price will walk into what they think is the final act of their little drama. Instead, they'll find themselves in a completely different play, one where Joe and I have written the ending. I press the accelerator, weaving through traffic. Time's short, but we've got surprise on our side, and in my experience, surprise beats planning every time. The title company office smells like fresh paint and cheap coffee, a thin veneer of respectability over what's about to become a crime scene. I sit in the corner, pretending to review paperwork, watch reflecting off my reading glasses each time I adjust them. The clock on the wall ticks toward noon, each sound like the cocking of a hammer. Officer Dan Riley and 2 plainclothes detectives wait in the back room, badges ready, warrant in hand. Joe is parked across the street, where I told him to stay. This isn't his fight anymore. It's mine, and the law's. The receptionist, young, blonde, clueless about what's coming, taps at her keyboard, humming something forgettable. The closing agent, a balding man with sweat stains already forming under his arms, arranges folders on the conference table. He knows something's off. Has to. The paperwork I showed Dan last night was too obviously fraudulent for any professional to miss. But money has a way of blurring vision, especially in this economy. It took one call to Dan Riley after meeting Joe at the diner. One call, and the mention of forged documents, property fraud, and a long-time resident about to lose everything. Dan and Joe grew up together, played high school football together. Some bonds don't break, even after decades. Evidence better be solid, Dan had said, voice gruff over the phone. It was. The signatures that didn't match, the listing that appeared overnight. The lawyer who folded like wet cardboard under minimal pressure. By midnight, we had a warrant and a plan. The glass door swings open, bell chiming cheerfully. Carl Price strides in first, all confidence in a suit that costs more than most people's monthly rent. Gold watch catching light, teeth impossibly white when he smiles at the receptionist. Linda McCarthy follows, 3 steps behind, clutching her purse like it contains state secrets. Her eyes dart around the room, landing on me for half a second before sliding away. I'm just another middle-aged man with paperwork. Invisible. "Jessica!" Carl booms to the receptionist. "Looking gorgeous as always. Is Michael ready for us?" The balding man, Michael apparently, nods from the conference room doorway, professional smile plastered on. "Right this way, Mr. Price. Mrs. McCarthy." I turn a page in my fabricated document, angle myself to watch through the conference room's glass wall. Carl's hand rests on Linda's lower back as they enter, guiding her like a prized possession. She perches on the edge of a chair, back straight, while Carl sprawls comfortably opposite Michael. "Beautiful day to make some money, huh, Mike?" Carl's voice carries through the thin walls. "Quick and clean, just how we like it." Michael forces a laugh. "Let's review the documents first, shall we?" I check my watch. 12:06. Dan and his detectives should be listening through the bug we planted under the conference table last night, recording every incriminating word. Michael slides papers across the table. "Here's the deed transfer already signed by Mr. McCarthy." Linda's shoulders tighten at her husband's name. Her fingers twist the strap of her purse. "And here's the cashier's check from our buyer." Carl places an envelope on the table. $230,000 as agreed. I know the check is real. Had to be for the charges to stick. The buyer is an undercover officer from Dan's precinct, name on the account established 6 months ago for exactly these kinds of operations. "Such a smooth transaction," Carl continues, leaning back. "Wish they were all this easy. House sold in a week, no inspection headaches, no mortgage contingencies." He winks at Linda. Your husband never has to know how easy it was to turn his precious house into cash. Linda flinches. Guilt, maybe, or just fear of getting caught. Hard to tell from here. Michael clears his throat. About Mr. McCarthy's signature. Carl's smile falters for a fraction of a second. What about it? Linda has power of attorney. A lie. There is no power of attorney. I showed Dan the county records myself. I don't see that document in the file, Michael says, shuffling papers. It's there somewhere, Carl waves dismissively. Linda, show him that paper we signed at Keller's office. Linda's hands shake as she opens her purse. I thought you had it. Jesus, Linda. Carl's charm slips, revealing the edge beneath. One thing. You had one thing to bring. I think I left it in the car. Her voice is small, trapped. For fuck's sake. Carl stands. Easy money, I said. Should be easy money. He glares at Michael. Look, we're all adults here. The signature's on the deed. The check's on the table. Let's just close this deal, and if you need the POA paperwork for your files, we'll bring it by this afternoon. Michael glances toward the door to the back room, our agreed signal. It's time. Actually, he says, voice steadier now, I think we should verify the signature first. Standard procedure. Since when? Carl demands. We've done 3 closings together this year alone. 3 others? I make a mental note. This operation just got bigger. New company policy, Michael replies. After that incident in Ferndale, Linda stands suddenly. I need air. Her face has gone pale, eyes wide with realization or panic. I'll get the paper from the car. Sit down, Carl hisses, grabbing her wrist. Nobody's going anywhere until we finish this. The back door opens. Officer Dan Riley emerges first, badge held high, followed by the 2 detectives. The receptionist gasps. I stand, my role as invisible observer finished. Carl Price, Linda McCarthy, Dan announces, voice carrying the weight of 20 years on the force. You're under arrest for attempted real estate fraud, forgery, and conspiracy. Carl's face contorts from confusion to rage in the span of a heartbeat. What the fuck is this? This, I say, stepping into the conference room, is what happens when you try to steal a man's house. Recognition dawns in Linda's eyes. You're Joe's detective. Riley Hunt, I confirm. Private investigator. And you should have been more careful about who you trusted with your paperwork. Carl lunges for the envelope with the cashier's check. One of the detectives catches his arm, twisting it behind his back. The sound of handcuffs clicking closed is surprisingly satisfying. You can't prove anything, Carl spits as they cuff him. It's her signature on everything, not mine. Linda's face crumples at the betrayal. Carl, you said we were in this together. You promised— Shut up, he snaps. Don't say another word. But it's too late. The confession is captured, the documents secured, the trap sprung. As Dan reads them their rights, I step outside to signal Joe. He stands by his truck across the street, watching. Even from here, I can see the mix of relief and pain on his face. His house is safe. His marriage is over. I give him a single nod. It's done. Behind me, I hear Linda crying as they lead her and Carl out separate doors. The sound holds no satisfaction, just the hollow echo of broken trust and consequences finally arriving. The sunset bleeds orange across my porch steps, painting shadows that stretch like accusations across the lawn. I sit with a lukewarm beer, sweating rings into the wood beside me, watching the neighborhood settle into evening. 6 hours since I watched them lead Linda away in handcuffs. 6 hours of phone calls, the police station, Linda's sister, my brother up in Lansing. The house stands quiet behind me, saved but somehow emptier than before. I run my thumb over the worn edge of the step, remembering my father's hands sanding this same wood 30 years ago. Some things last, some don't. The charges are serious enough to keep her locked up tonight. Property fraud, conspiracy, forgery. Words I never thought I'd associate with the woman who slept beside me for 26 years. Dan Riley called an hour ago, voice official at first, then softening to the kid I used to know. Said Linda was cooperating, claiming Price manipulated her, promised her a fresh start. Doesn't matter now. The fresh start she wanted required erasing me first. Across the street, the Wilson kids chase each other with water guns, their shrieks cutting through the evening quiet. Ordinary life going on while mine sits derailed. My marriage died long before today, I realize. I just never signed the death certificate, movement at the corner of my eye. Susan Grant coming up the sidewalk, dish towel wrapped around something in her hands. Her cleaning van sits in her driveway across the street and 2 houses down. Spotless by Susan, painted on the side. Steam rises from whatever she's carrying. She sees me watching, raises it slightly like an offering. I straighten, suddenly aware of my wrinkled shirt, the day's stubble on my face. Susan's been my neighbor for 8 years, ever since her divorce. We exchange waves, occasional small talk about the weather or property taxes. Nothing more. But I've seen her watching me sometimes when I work on my truck in the driveway, caught her smile when I helped her carry groceries during that ice storm last winter. "Thought you might not feel like cooking," she says, climbing the first step. Her voice is gentle, like she's approaching a wounded animal. Maybe she is. I clear my throat. "Thanks, that's real thoughtful." She stands there, awkward, the casserole dish steaming between us. Her hair is down today, not in the practical ponytail she wears for work. Sun-streaked brown with strands of gray she doesn't bother hiding. "It's just chicken and rice," she says. "Nothing fancy. Would you—" The words stick. "When was the last time I invited someone to sit with me? Would you like to join me?" She hesitates, then nods, settling beside me on the step, careful to leave space between us. The casserole dish rests on the wooden boards, heat seeping through the towel. We sit in silence, watching the street, listening to distant lawn mowers and the Wilson kids' game moving into someone else's yard. The silence stretches, neither of us knowing how to break it. What do you say to a neighbor whose wife just got arrested for trying to steal his house? Hallmark doesn't make a card for that. "Dan Riley called me," Susan finally says, eyes on the sunset. "He thought someone should check on you." "Of course." Dan and Susan's brother worked together on the force years back. Small neighborhoods have invisible threads connecting everyone. Whole street probably knows by now, I say, no real bitterness in it. Just fact. "People care about you, Joe." Her voice is steady, matter of fact. "You've fixed half the cars on this block. Shoveled the Thompsons' walk every snow since his heart attack." I shrug, feel strange being talked about, being noticed. "Never thought she'd do something like this," I admit, the words scraping my throat raw. 26 years. You think you know someone. Susan's quiet a moment. "My ex cleaned out our accounts 2 days before he left. Took the kids to his mother's for the weekend and never came back. Had a girlfriend in Tampa I never knew about." I look at her, really look at her for maybe the first time. The strength in her face, the hard-won calm in her eyes. "How'd you get past it?" I ask. "One day at a time, built my business, made a new life?" She smiles, small but real. "Some days I didn't think I'd make it, but you do." The Wilson kids have gone inside now. Porch lights flicker on down the street. "House feels like a crime scene," I say. "Keep seeing her everywhere, by the coffee maker, reading on the couch." Susan nods. "First month's the hardest, when the ghost of how things were is still fresh. Did you ever—" I hesitate, uncertain how to ask. Did you ever trust anyone again? After? She looks at me directly now, something soft but unflinching in her gaze. Eventually. Had to learn the difference between being alone and being lonely first. Had to figure out who I was without him. The words sink in, a truth I'm not ready for but need to hear. Casserole's getting cold, Susan says, changing the subject with gentle precision. Got plates inside? Yeah. I stand, legs stiff from sitting too long. And clean forks, believe it or not. She laughs, a warm sound that seems to push back the shadows gathering at the edges of the yard. A man of hidden talents. I hold the door for her, suddenly aware of how long it's been since anyone but Linda has walked through it. The house doesn't feel like a crime scene with Susan in it. Just feels like a house again. 4 walls, a roof, a foundation. Somewhere to start over. I'm not good company right now, I warn as she steps past me, the scent of something floral and clean following her. Good thing I'm not looking for entertainment, she replies. Just bringing dinner to a friend who needs it. Friend? The word sits between us, simple and complicated all at once. Maybe that's enough for now. Maybe that's exactly what I need. I follow her inside, closing the door on the dying sunset. Behind us, the porch sits empty, beer bottle abandoned, the first chapter of whatever comes next, already beginning. The garage door rattles up at 6:30, chains complaining like they do every morning. Dawn light filters through the high windows, catching dust motes and the gleam of tools hung in their proper places. I flip the switches one by one. Lights, compressor, radio tuned to the morning traffic report. The concrete floor still holds the oil stains from yesterday's jobs, and the calendar on the wall still needs changing. But today feels different. Today the garage is just a garage again, not a place to hide from what's happening at home. I run my palm over the smooth hood of Mrs. Kowalski's Buick, feel the cool metal beneath my skin, and for the first time in weeks, I take a full breath. Miguel won't be in until 8, so I get started on the Buick's transmission. Routine work, the kind my hands know by heart. Loosen the pan bolts, catch the fluid in the drain pan, check for metal shavings that might signal bigger problems. My mind settles into the familiar rhythm. Here, under a car, everything makes sense. Every problem has a solution if you just know where to look. The bell over the door jingles at 7:15. Heavy footsteps cross the floor. You open yet, Joe? Ed Kowalski's gruff voice echoes through the garage. Retired firefighter comes in every oil change like clockwork, always arrives an hour before his appointment. I slide out from under his wife's car, wiping my hands on a shop rag. For you, Ed? Always. He stands there in the same tiger's cap he's worn since I've known him, hands deep in the pockets of his jacket. His eyes carry the awkward sympathy of a man who's heard the news but doesn't know what to say about it. Coffee's fresh, I tell him, nodding toward the pot in the corner. He nods gratefully, moving toward it. Heard some things yesterday about Linda. He keeps his back to me, focusing intently on pouring his coffee. Bunch of bull, I bet. Wish it was. I turn back to the transmission, checking the filter. She's in real trouble, Ed. He's quiet a moment. You need anything? Mary and I are right down the block. Anything at all. The simple offer hits harder than I expect. I swallow past the sudden tightness in my throat. Appreciate that. The door jingles again. Pete from the hardware store holding a box of donuts. Morning delivery, he announces, setting them on the counter. His eyes dart around the garage, then back to me. Figured you might need some sugar today. On the house. Before I can answer, 2 more neighbors walk in. Sarah Chen from the dry cleaner next door, and Old Man Jenkins who runs the shoe repair. No cars to fix between them, just coffee cups and careful smiles. Thought we'd check if you were open, Sarah says. My Toyota's making that noise again. Jenkins nods. And my grandson's Jeep needs new brake pads. They're lying. Sarah's Toyota is barely a year old, and Jenkins's grandson lives in Seattle. They're here for me, not their cars. Word travels fast in neighborhoods like this. For a moment, I don't know what to say. These people, these neighbors I've fixed cars for and nodded to on the street for years, they're showing up. For me. Appreciate the business, I manage, voice rougher than I intended. And the company. Miguel arrives early, eyebrows rising at the impromptu gathering. He catches my eye, nods once, and heads straight to the Camry waiting in the second bay. No questions, just work. Good kid. By 9, the garage has settled into its normal rhythm. Cars coming in, parts being ordered, the constant percussion of wrenches, and the pneumatic whine of the impact driver. Each familiar sound, another stitch holding the torn fabric of my life together. Dan Riley called earlier. Linda's being released on bail this afternoon. Her sister's picking her up. She'll stay there until the hearing next week. Carl Price remains locked up. Turns out he had warrants in 2 other counties for similar scams. No bail for him. The house is safe, legally mine without question. The marriage, though, that's another story. Papers already filed. The side door opens around 10. Riley Hunt steps in, 2 coffee cups in hand, limp more pronounced today. He looks out of place among the grease and tools, but something in his eyes suggests he's no stranger to workshops like this. Men who fix broken things recognize each other. "Thought you might need this," he says, offering me one of the cups. "It's the good stuff, not that sludge you're brewing over there." I accept it, the warmth seeping through my calloused fingers. "Thanks. For this. For everything." He shrugs, uncomfortable with gratitude. "Just doing the job. Going above and beyond from where I stand." Riley takes a sip of his coffee, eyes scanning the garage. "Place looks good. Busy. Always is." I lead him to the small office in the back, away from curious ears. Miguel gives Riley a nod as we pass, recognition between 2 men who've seen the underbelly of things. The office is cramped but private. I've already taken down the photos of Linda, left the frames empty for now. Riley notices but doesn't comment. "Dan says the case is solid," he says, settling into the chair across from my desk. "They found 3 other properties Price was working on. Same scheme. You weren't the only target, just the latest." "Lucky me." The bitterness slips out before I can catch it. "Actually, yeah. Lucky you caught it in time." Riley sets his coffee down. "Others weren't so fortunate." I think about that, about the people who came home one day to find their houses sold out from under them. At least I still have these walls, this roof, this foundation my father built. Linda's lawyer is pushing for a plea deal, Riley continues. First-time offender, cooperating with the investigation against Price. She'll likely get probation, maybe some community service. Good. The word surprises both of us. I don't want her in prison, just away from me. Riley studies me a moment. Most guys in your position would want blood. I shrug. What good would that do? Won't fix what's broken. No, he agrees quietly. Some things can't be fixed. Outside the office window, I watch Miguel explaining something to Mrs. Kowalski, who's arrived to pick up her car. His hands move in the air, tracing the shape of the transmission. Teaching her, not talking down to her. Some things can, though, I say, turning back to Riley. You rebuild, replace the bad parts, start over. A ghost of a smile touches Riley's face. Speaking from experience, cars and people aren't so different sometimes. I drain the last of my coffee. Both run better with proper maintenance. Both break down if you ignore the warning signs. Riley stands, checking his watch. Got another case across town. Missing person this time, not a wayward spouse. Variety's the spice of life. I stand too, extending my hand. Your car making that noise still? The one I heard when you pulled up yesterday? He looks surprised. Timing belt, I think. Been putting it off. Bring it by next week. On the house. Riley hesitates, then nods. Might take you up on that. He turns to go, then pauses at the door. You're gonna be all right, McCarthy. It's not a question, but I answer anyway. Yeah, I am. After he leaves, I walk back into the main garage. Miguel has the Kowalski car running smooth again. Ed's wife is smiling, writing out a check. Pete from the hardware store is telling a story that has Jenkins chuckling. Sarah Chen is inspecting a timing belt Miguel's showing her, nodding like she understands. My garage, my people, my life, still standing even after the storm. I pick up a wrench, feel its familiar weight in my palm. You can fix a busted engine, maybe even a broken heart. Not the same as before, maybe, but functional. Running, ready for the road ahead. Outside, the morning sun cuts through the high windows, painting streaks of light across the concrete floor. I step into one, feel its warmth on my face, and get back to work.